Welcome to I Love English, the podcast where history becomes alive and English becomes exciting. Today, we enter one of the most complex and controversial stories in human history, the journey of Adolf Hitler. This name is often spoken with anger, with sadness, and with judgment. But it is also a name that cannot be ignored. He was both admired and feared, both considered a hero in the eyes of some and the ultimate villain in the eyes of the world. But most importantly, he was human, a man with childhood dreams, with failures that crushed him, with ambition that lifted him, and with choices that brought destruction on a scale almost too great to grasp. His story is not simply about one man. It is about how dreams can be twisted, how power can corrupt, and how the fate of millions can hang on the ambitions of a single individual.
It all began on April 20th, 1889, in a little border town called Braunau am Inn in Austria. A baby boy was born to Adolf Hitler and his wife Clara. They named him Adolf. At first glance, nothing suggested that this small child would one day turn the world upside down. He was a boy like many others, fond of playing in the fields, sketching pictures, and daydreaming of a grand future. His mother Clara adored him deeply, showering him with love and patience. But his father Alois was stern, strict, and authoritarian. Alois dreamed that his son would follow his own footsteps, secure a government job, and live a disciplined, bureaucratic life. But Adolf had something else in his heart. He wanted to be an artist. He dreamed of painting magnificent buildings, drawing landscapes, and becoming known for his artistic genius. His mother supported him, but Alois mocked his dream. The boy's desire clashed with his father's will, and the household often heard shouts of, "Art is not a real profession."
The conflict scarred young Adolf's personality. He either sat silently, suppressing tears, or he fantasized about a life of freedom where no one controlled him. When Alois died unexpectedly in 1903, some thought Adolf would finally feel liberated, but instead it left an emptiness. The boy who once had some discipline turned restless. His school performance dropped. Teachers noted that he was intelligent, even creative, but deeply undisciplined. Adolf seemed to live between two worlds, bright in imagination, but constantly failing to meet expectations placed by society.
After finishing school, he headed to Vienna in 1907 with a burning dream. Vienna, the city of art, music, and culture, felt like the place where his destiny would unfold. He applied to the prestigious Academy of Fine Arts. His heart soared with hope. Yet, when the results arrived, it was a devastating blow. Adolf Hitler was rejected. "Your drawings lack talent," they wrote. His world collapsed. But he was determined. "I'll try again." He gathered courage and reapplied the next year. To his horror, he faced rejection again. 2 rejections, back to back, told him bluntly his dream of being a famous painter was slipping away. This time, the wound cut even deeper. Humiliation sank into his heart. Without acceptance into art school, without steady money, Hitler struggled to survive. He lived in shabby rented rooms, sometimes even sleeping on the streets. His only income came from selling hand-painted postcards to tourists. He often asked bitterly, "Why is life so unfair to me?"
As if misery was not enough, his beloved mother, Clara, passed away during this period. Clara had always been the soft light in his life, the one person who understood him. When she was gone, Hitler felt abandoned, alone, grieving, and struggling to survive. His inner bitterness hardened. While wandering the streets of Vienna, he encountered heated debates in cafes, harsh anti-Semitic propaganda, nationalist speeches, all dripping with hatred, yet full of passion. All these arguments slowly seeped into his mind. Though he had dreamed of being remembered as an artist, the canvas of his life was beginning to shift. If he could not leave his mark through brushes and colors, perhaps he would leave one through politics and power.
The turning point came in 1914. World War I erupted, and Hitler saw it as his chance to matter. He rushed to volunteer for the German army. For once, he felt accepted, needed, and proud. To his comrades, Hitler was brave. He carried life-threatening messages across dangerous battlefields. He risked injury, but he never shirked his duty. His courage earned him the Iron Cross, one of Germany's highest honors. Finally, he belonged to something larger than himself, and the soldier uniform gave him the identity he had desperately craved. Yet, fate proved cruel again. In 1918, Germany lost the war. For Hitler, this was not just a defeat, it was betrayal. He believed Germany had been stabbed in the back by weak leaders and internal traitors. At this moment, anger exploded inside him, a bitterness mixed with ambition, the conviction that he must rise and restore greatness. The failed artist returned from the war, not just as a veteran, but as a man determined to change his country's destiny.
In 1919, searching for meaning, he discovered a small group called the German Workers' Party. It was tiny, almost insignificant. But when Hitler spoke at meetings, something became clear. He could electrify people. His voice rose with anger. His hands swept through the air. His words carried raw energy. Listeners felt, for the first time, that someone understood their pain after the humiliation of the Treaty of Versailles. Poverty, hunger, and anger were everywhere, and Hitler transformed this despair into fiery promises. Germany will rise again. Our pride will return. His speeches gathered larger and larger crowds. The failed painter had discovered his second canvas. Speeches were his brushstrokes, and the people were his canvas, painted with passion and rage.
By 1920, the party was renamed the National Socialist German Workers' Party, the Nazi Party. Hitler designed its symbol, the red flag with the black swastika, declaring it the new banner of Germany's rebirth. Suddenly, the man once selling postcards was leading thousands at rallies. But while he promised hope, he also spread hatred. His vision excluded Jews, minorities, and anyone who did not belong to his idea of true Germans. To his followers, he was a visionary hero. To others, his ideas reeked of extremism. In 1923, burning with overconfidence, Hitler attempted to overthrow the government in Munich, a coup called the Beer Hall Push. It failed miserably. He was arrested and faced prison. Yet, surprisingly, this became his stepping stone. Inside prison, for 9 months, he dictated his thoughts into a book called Mein Kampf, meaning My Struggle. It was part autobiography, part political manifesto. In it, he outlined how Germany would rise, how he would cleanse the country, and how strength and nationalism would replace weakness. Critics dismissed him as a noisy fanatic, but many Germans, desperate and angry, began to see him as their savior.
By 1933, the tide shifted completely. Germany, crushed by the Great Depression, found hope in Hitler's promises. He became chancellor, the top leader of Germany. Almost suddenly, transformation rushed across the nation. Industries restarted, roads were built, unemployment fell, and people felt dignity return to their lives. To a starving people, Hitler appeared as a hero who had brought miracles. Songs praised him, crowds cheered his parades, newspapers glorified his leadership. Foreign leaders even admired his quick rebuilding of the country. Yet behind the apparent prosperity was ruthless control. Dissenters were silenced, newspapers censored, youth brainwashed, and opponents jailed. Hitler's image was everywhere, his words repeated endlessly, until he no longer seemed human but godlike. To many Germans, he was savior incarnate, but in truth, he was building a dictatorship of fear.
By 1939, Hitler made his boldest move. He ordered the invasion of Poland, igniting World War II. Suddenly, chaos spread across Europe. At first, Hitler's army blazed through nations: France, Denmark, Norway, Greece, falling like dominoes. Everywhere, he was hailed by followers as a master strategist, a genius commander. Cheers filled German streets. But under this surface of victory, something horrifying unfolded. Hitler gave orders to systematically annihilate Jews, Roma, disabled individuals, and others he deemed unfit. What began as propaganda now became systematic murder. Millions were tortured and killed in concentration camps. This mass genocide is remembered as the Holocaust, the darkest stain of the modern era. And here, Hitler's paradox emerged clearly. To his people, he was still a hero, raising Germany from humiliation to power. But to his victims and to history itself, he was the most ruthless villain of all time.
By 1941, Hitler's overconfidence led him to attack the Soviet Union. At first, he gained ground, but soon the Russian winter and enormous resistance slowed his forces. In 1944, the Allied forces landed in Normandy, creating a Western front. Germany was crushed between East and West. The once invincible Reich began to collapse. Bombs rained over German cities. Families starved. Houses were destroyed. People began whispering, "Why did we follow him? Was this the future we were promised?" The man worshipped as a hero was now dragging his nation into ash and ruin.
By early 1945, Hitler no longer appeared on grand podiums. He hid in a bunker beneath Berlin. Above ground, Soviet forces were closing in. American planes dropped bombs relentlessly. Inside the bunker, Hitler clung to illusions, barking orders of imaginary victories. His once unbeatable army had shrunk to scattered, desperate soldiers. He sat with his most loyal followers and with Eva Braun, his companion. In April 1945, he married Eva in a brief ceremony. The next day, realizing the end was near, Hitler and Eva took their own lives. He was 56 years old. A man who once dreamed of being a famous painter had died not as a hero, but as a trapped dictator in a bunker surrounded by a burning world. A week later, Germany surrendered. Europe sighed in relief. The nightmare was over.
So, how is Hitler remembered today? From millions of Germans of the 1930s, he was a savior, the hero who gave them jobs and restored pride. But for the victims of the Holocaust, for the nations destroyed in war, and for history itself, he stands as the ultimate villain, the architect of death and devastation. In the end, perhaps he was both, a man with flawed humanity, who combined extraordinary willpower with extraordinary hatred. He was a reminder that charisma without conscience is dangerous, that ambition without empathy can destroy civilizations.
The story of Hitler warns us about the dangers of blind obedience, unchecked power, and hate-filled ideologies. Every choice matters. Every action shapes the future. He teaches us, tragically, how dreams can curdle into nightmares when driven by arrogance, pride, and cruelty. And he shows us that no matter how strong a leader seems, hatred ultimately consumes itself. His life is a reminder for us all. Choose compassion over destruction, unity over division, and peace over war. For while Hitler
changed the world forever. It is up to us to ensure that no one ever walks that same destructive path again.
So, friends, this was the incredible yet tragic story of Adolf Hitler. A man of paradoxes, revered and hated, a dreamer and a destroyer, a leader and a warning. His life is not just history, it's a mirror for all of us. We must learn, we must reflect, and we must never repeat the mistakes of the past. If this episode inspired you, helped improve your English, and gave you a fresh perspective on history, then do your part in spreading knowledge. Share this podcast with your friends. Subscribe so you never miss a powerful story. And leave us a review to tell us what you learned today. Your support keeps this journey alive. Remember, every story you listen to here is not just practice for your English, it's practice for your thinking, your wisdom, and your future. Together, let's build a world of learners, dreamers, and peacemakers. This is I Love English, the podcast, signing off. Stay curious, stay kind, and keep learning. Until next time, choose love over hate, unity over division, and knowledge over ignorance. Because that is how we truly change the world.